The clone xenomorphs of Alien Resurrection explored. The clone xenomorphs were an altered strain of the species Xenomorph XX121. They were bred aboard the USM Auriga in 2381. The reason for their cloning and breeding were because Weyland-Yutani and subsequent companies were actually unable to find any more traces of Xenomorph across the galaxy. Thought now long to be extinct, or at the very least out of reach of the various companies that attempted to find them. So, the cloned Xenomorphs were extracted and created through genetic engineering following the events of Fiorina Fury 161. There were blood samples located of the recently deceased Ellen Ripley. They were collected from the planet, and then they were used as a starting point in a very, very ambitious program to clone Ripley. Now, it was hoped that the embryo of the Xenomorph Queen that had been growing inside of her at the time of her death would also be cloned. After 10 years of experimentation and 7 notable failures that only resulted in the creation of awfully deformed mutant hybrids of both Xenomorph and Ripley, the program would succeed, and the Queen embryo was harvested by the United Systems military scientists aboard the Auriga. Interestingly enough, though, the cloning process, even this far into the future, was not a perfect success, and the scientists were unaware that the DNA of the Xenomorphs and Ellen Ripley had become mixed in the process. This gave both the Ripley 8 clone and the Queen Xenomorph anomalous traits and abilities, and much like the Xenomorph's DNA reflex system, these traits and abilities would be passed on to the Queen's offspring, which resulted in a unique strain of the Xenomorph XX121. From a far distance, the cloned Xenomorph would resemble much the normal human-spawned Xenomorph drone. They had the usual elongated skull, the see-through clear dome topping, elongated dorsal fins, long serpentine tail, 4 digits on each hand, and the usual piping which made up the incredibly unique biomechanic design. But upon closer inspection, they would possess several unique differences resulting from their contaminated DNA. In terms of the most notable difference, it's actually their colouring. They had a shimmer, a green hue, that was not seen on any other Xenomorph. Now this gave them a more insect-like appearance. Their necks would be fleshier than the biomechanical design seen in normal Xenomorph XX121, and this change may also relate to their ability to roar in a fashion which we had not seen in other Xenomorphs. Their bodies also adopted a partially quadrupedal stance similar to that of the runner, and perhaps my favourite element of the cloned Xenomorph was the digitigrade hind legs, rather than the primarily bipedal posture of the original big chap Xenomorph that we had seen in Alien. Now, although mentioned, they have a long serpentine tail, their tails also had a flat ridge of spines at the base and a more blade-like structure. This, as seen in the events on the Auriga, would allow them to become excellent swimmers. Now, the cloned Xenomorphs were also notable for breeding quicker than typical Xenomorphs, a characteristic which would be credited by Dr. Wren to unintentional alterations incurred during the cloning process we used to create them. This would allow them to multiply even more rapidly and cause them to quickly overwhelm the Auriga. Now, in terms of physical ability, they are actually very comparable to normal human-spawned Xenomorph drones, aka the Big chaps. They are capable of battering down steel doors and tearing open metal grates and floors with their bare hands. They can spit acid, and this would often be an aim for a victim's face to blind them and then subdue them. They also possess heightened agility, with some even seen to dodge incoming weapons fire. This being a relatively new trait, and I would imagine something as a result of the cloning process. Now, interestingly enough, the intelligence of the cloned Xenomorph was also affected. The Xenomorph have an ability to inherit memories genetically, and as a side effect of the cloning process, that would then create the cloned Xenomorphs. The creatures have access to Ellen Ripley's memories through their queen. Although, specifically, they do not apparently fully understand these memories, but I would imagine through this connection anyway, the Xenomorphs would consider Ripley 8 to be one of their members, and consequently spare her when she is captured whilst trying to escape the Auriga. This would then of course lead them to deliver her unharmed to the Queen. Now we can argue and debate whether this was a direct instruction from the Queen herself, but I would imagine this is due to them being connected in some form or another. We hear dialogue to that effect, at least. Now the cloned Xenomorphs are actually more vicious and fluidly intelligent than normal Xenomorph drones. They are shown to possess impressive problem-solving skills and the ability to learn rapidly. Now I theorise that this is actually to do with the cloning process directly. We know that the Ripley 8 clone and the cloned Queen share a lot of the DNA. Now because of that direct link, the cloned Xenomorphs that are spawned directly from a human Xenomorph clone hybrid, aka the cloned Queen, would then possess a greater intelligence and a greater problem-solving abilities. Now in terms of how that manifests itself in the film, we see them rapidly learning, and they even set traps to lure and ambush victims. The cloned Xenomorphs were first able to escape their containment cells, a massive display of intelligence, and then they would kill one of their own in this process and use the effects of the dead creature's acidic blood to melt through the enclosure's floor. Again, something we have not seen before. We saw something similar at the very least in AVP, but that is not considered canon to the Alien franchise. And again, similarly, the lead alien of the cloned Xenomorphs was also shown to learn almost immediately that disobedience would result in punishment in the form of a freezing nitrogen spray by Dr. Wren, and the lead alien would then later use this same spray to eliminate the USM personnel searching for it. A fantastic display of intelligence, I'm sure you would agree. So what do you guys think of the cloned Xenomorphs of Alien Resurrection? Please do let me know your thoughts down below. If you enjoyed this return to an explored video, please do give it a thumbs up and please do share it. Thank you so much for watching though, ladies and gentlemen. I've been Mr. H. Take care.